Like the rest of you, we're trying to make sense of this crazy thing that we call life. I'm RJ.
I'm Khalil.
I'm Chasmine.
And welcome to Try Not to Overthink It. Every day we find ourselves discussing many different topics, ranging from trending news to the state of our society as a whole. You name it, we've probably talked about it. After many heated debates, we've decided to expand our conversations and share them with you from both a therapist and a social worker's point of view. If this is your first time here, we'd like to thank you for checking us out, and we hope that you'll stay and become part of the tribe as well as participate in the conversations. So today, we are going to talk about positive self-worth. So for many of us, we struggle with self-esteem. We struggle with believing in ourselves. We struggle with looking for the positive values that we have and the things that we contribute to any situation that we find ourselves in. And so I thought that it was very important that we talk about that today. So for me, because I'll start us off. For me, I've struggled with that at times, where I didn't necessarily always believe in myself. I didn't always necessarily believe in what was for me, and I didn't necessarily always have the best direction in which I was supposed to be going. And so because I didn't necessarily have those things, other things would start to seep in, and I would start to second guess myself. I would start to not believe in myself, and I would start to not believe in the plan that God had for me. And because of that, made certain choices, made certain decisions, made certain associations that I shouldn't have because I wasn't operating in the right mind space. So it wasn't until I started to kind of, get back on the right path and start to kind of work through certain things that things kind of turned around for me. But, that is not the story for everyone. A lot of people, they find themselves on certain paths or going in certain directions, and sometimes they're not able to recover and rebound and get back on the right track. So how do you guys feel about that?
I believe what you said, RJ, and I was looking at the stats last week because, we had started talking about it that 85% of the world population struggle or are affected by, low self-esteem. That's pretty much everyone. Mm-hmm. In hindsight. And to think about it from a therapist perspective, how do you treat people with self-esteem issues in addition to manage something that is not visible at all as a person? I think self-esteem is a huge concept to really delve into and to really start looking at when you're trying to educate the community, you're trying to educate the youth, and you're trying to challenge the social and the norms that we have for ourselves. Most people that's 35 or 34 years old, that's my age, are supposed to be married and all these other things, or, have certain, reach certain status quotes. And, if you don't meet those, you feel that you failed or that you lack self-worth or, you've been damaged or tainted in some type of way. And, I think that I'm glad that you actually are having this conversation because most people don't know what self-esteem is. They know what the uncomfortable feeling of it is. Or, I'm having these thoughts that I don't fit this space, or I don't fit somewhere, or I don't feel comfortable being in a location. But it all stems off you not having that self-esteem or doubting yourself. I always think about like being younger and, being a dark-skinned person or a dark-skinned female, guys will maybe crack jokes, with the extremely darker females. And, I remember one girl was like, hey, I've been cutting myself. And I was like, what? And it was real. I think that's when I noticed about self-esteem because I came home and told my mom, she was a teacher at the time. And she was like, maybe her parents need to start talking to her about, being comfortable with the skin she's in and being comfortable as the person she is. And I didn't really know about it. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. So these are conversations that definitely need to be had, being that so many Americans, 85% of people, which that's nearly everybody, maybe 15% of people that don't struggle with having a positive self-worth.
Right. I like the fact that Chasmine brought up that 15%, right? So when we throw in the categories of the people who might be delusional, who have a grandiose sense of self, or they actually don't really have a clue on how to operate among the regular social, the normal social constructs, and they feel as they're, especially people who are entitled or have a lot of money, that's what their worth is built on. It's built on material things. So of that 15%, we can start breaking it down because those are outliers. That might not be the normal people, but most people do struggle with self-worth. And as a social worker, when I'm dealing with a client, a patient, someone I meet, and I can see that their self-worth has been, one of their issues, and how come they're not achieving something, because self-worth obviously can equal, that failure in life to try to do better, because you'll feel as if, you know what, I don't measure up. I might as well not even try. That fear of failure, fear of success, all those things can hamper us, right? But also the comparisons. As a clinician, those are things that immediately, once I start hearing people comparing themselves to others, is when I have to do an intervention. I have to step in, because that's a distortion. I cannot compare myself to someone who has maybe never been through the same things I've been through. All right, somebody who grew up in a different culture, somebody who grew up in a different environment that led them, or that was an entitled environment, and they were given a certain amount of resources that I didn't have, right? So I would have to get people who grew up exactly like me, had the same issues with my family, had the same issues with, same type of job I have, the same type of career field, the same age group in my cohorts. And we'd have to break down the statistics to a place where it would drive someone crazy to sit down and do this, right? This type of research, because by the time I did all that and wasted all that time and energy, I still probably couldn't compare myself to that person, because like I said, there's other factors. Well, I don't know if they're delusional. They might have a mental health disorder. And so, yeah, of course they believe I'm God. I could walk on water. So all those different things that affect people's self-esteem, right? It's so hard to compare yourself to other people. And I think that's what our culture does to us. The social media does to us, right? We're always looking and comparing. This person has this type of car. This person has this type of clothing. These people are successful, and a picture can lie to you, right?
For sure.
I know for myself, with my ex-wife, you know what I mean? Going through situations with her at certain points of time, I was unsuccessful. I was unemployed, and she left me for somebody else. And she's putting these pictures on social media, like she's having this just wonderful time with this new person, and they're taking pictures with my daughter and stuff. And I felt so horrible. I was like, man, I can't compare to what this person's doing. I won't be successful. I'm going to probably always be like this. And it put me in a deep state of depression. But shortly after, it wasn't even a year, they had broken up. And my ex-wife called me. She's like, oh, yeah, so-and-so left me and this and that. And, but I was so depressed, because I was like, man, they're going to get married. They're going to have a wonderful life and this and that. And instead of me working on myself, right, and doing what was necessary for Khalil, I was too busy worried and caught up on somebody else's life and trying to compare, right? And she's no longer with that man. I don't even know where he's at, right? We don't have no contact with my daughter, you know what I'm saying? And I have a much better relationship with my child now that she's 15, she's older. And when I actually got to talk to my child about that relationship, which wasn't even that long after, she said, I ain't like him. That's not my dad. You're my dad, So those are the things that I think we get caught up in. It's an illusion when we get caught up on comparisons. And it's apples to oranges. You can't compare yourself with anybody else if they haven't been through what you've been through. And I know that really greatly affects self-esteem. Later on in the program, I really want to talk about some good social work interventions. And I'm going to talk about some of those on how to build self-esteem. But I want to pass it off to RJ and my sister over here, Chasmin, and let you guys delve into some other things.
I think that you hit a lot of things that were very important to hit on, like the aspect of failure. I think that for a lot of us, because we are afraid to fail, we never make any headway, good or bad, because we're just frozen in place. And I mean, the thing about it though is fail, you should never be afraid to fail. Because failing, doesn't define who you are. It's what you do after you fail that sets the tone moving forward. Because a lot of things, everything is not going to go the way that you intended it to go. Everything is not going to work out, the way that you felt that it should have worked out. But if you allow the fear of failing or even the actual failure to impede upon you from growing, you're never getting any better than where you are right now. And I think that for a lot of people, that is what happens, because I don't want this to not go the right way, or I don't want this to go badly. So I'm just not going to do anything. And the thing about it, though, is that fear is what's keeping you in place. That fear is what's stopping you from self-actualizing and reaching your full potential. Because again, in order for people to be successful, you have to stop and look at how many times they weren't successful.
Right. The failures.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. A lot of people, they fail 100 times before they ever are successful at what they were trying to do.
Right. Now, RJ, luckily you said that, because I think about how elementary and how the school systems and schooling impacts your self-esteem, because it's that failure is not an option mentality that keep people so mentally stagnant. What that means is, like, when you're in grade school, the biggest thing I think that I hear most kids call the suicidal hotline for is either bullying or failing a grade, like failing a class. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it. I said, that's the only crisis mostly that they had experienced outside of family issues, being sexually abused and things like that. That is one of the biggest crisis in their life. I remember going back, and like we talked about, is standardized testing. How much of that is a comparison? So we're teaching from almost, I'm going to say 5 years old onward, to compare yourself to each other person within the classroom as you. However, we all have different talents, different gifts, different, I'm not going to even say different personalities. I want to say, like, we really don't morph into our really own self until we actually start having the opportunity to fail, having the opportunity to grow within your environment, having the opportunity to go out other places and experience different aspects of life. But the schooling has to change. The failure is not an option. Failure is an option. I've learned some of the best lessons from actually failing.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because the thing about it, though, is, like, for me, I'm really into like history and things of that nature. So they used to have this show that came on the History Channel called Vikings, and it was essentially about this Viking raider. His name was Ragnar Lothbrok, and so he said something that really stood out to me: either I win or I learn. There wasn't no I win or I lose. There's either I win or I learn. Right. And so for him, he took failures as teachable moments. I learned from that. If it didn't kill me, I learned to not repeat that mistake, which allowed me to then come back and just overcome the enemy. And so for a lot of us, and that starts with, surrounding yourself with the right people, because a lot of times the people that you surround yourself with are going to help you get to that next level, because those people that you surround yourself with that are positive influences upon you, they are going to feed into you. No different than when you surround yourself with negative influences, they're going to suck life out of you.
Right.
So when you surround yourself with people who have your best interests at heart, because, like where Unique was saying that you are the prize, access to you is a privilege. It's not a right.
Right.
So when people are around you, this is a privilege to be in my circle. And for a lot of us, we will find that some of our biggest haters are the people that are in our circle. You'll have family members who didn't believe in your dream. You'll have your girlfriend or your wife or your boyfriend or your husband who didn't believe in your dream. And so they tell you that you're stupid. They tell you that you don't know what you're doing, that it's not going to be successful, or that this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And the thing about it, though, is people who are truly invested in you, because there's a difference between someone providing constructive criticism versus someone who's just being a hater. Right. Someone who's providing constructive criticism may tell you your idea is bad, but they'll explain to you what you can do to improve your idea. Mm-hmm. Whereas someone who is just being a hater is going to tear you down and tell you that you're stupid, but then not tell you how you can improve.
And RJ, you know, some people just want to self-sabotage anyway, being around those people with low self-esteem. It's just like we have to think about some people just want that draining energy. And I've been around people and I'm like, you don't want to be around better people.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like that, but it's really ultimately up to you. I question that for a lot of people that I've met, even in my own friend circle. And I'm like, are you sure those are the people that you want to spend your time with? Because obviously they're not being productive. They're not even in the same field you're in. They're not doing the things that you're doing. What type of motivation or strength are you gaining from those people, especially people outside of the family circle, right? The family system. You know, there's extended families also, but I'm talking about like if you have a friend who is damn near homeless, because, you know, I've had those where they living from couch to couch. They don't have a place to go. All right. And you have a house, you have a family, and you're supporting that person. What are they bringing into your life? You have to question those motives of that friend. What are you to that person?
I mean, I can tell you that it's a different type of vibe when you're happy, you're worry free, you're fake friend free, you're stress free, and you're focused. It's a whole different type of vibe. Like life kind of gets out of your way when you are on that type of vibe, you know, and I remember watching the interview that Will Smith was doing, and he was talking about a saying that he saw that about Confucius, where Confucius says either a man that can't says that he can, and a man that says he can't are both correct. And, you know, that was very true because, you know, a lot of times the people we surround ourselves with, even ourselves, because I've spoken about this in previous episodes, we are the storm sometimes. We are the calamity in our own lives. And when you're constantly telling yourself that you can't do something, or you're hearing people tell you that you can't do something, because in church today, the pastor was talking about that. He was talking about how, you know, there are certain things on you that are gates. Your eyes are gates. Your ears are gates. Your mouths are gates. Your nose is a gate. You know, because the things that you allow to come in through those gates can take up residence in you and start to impact you in a negative way. And so when you're hearing people tell you that you can't do something, you're hearing people tell you that you will never amount to anything. You start to believe that because it's in you now. You start to think about it because you heard it, you know. And so it's no different than when you hear people tell you the opposite, that you can do something, that you will do something, that you are capable of great things. I remember, you know, like my mom used to call and tell me that when I was a kid. You know, as a kid, even now as an adult, you know, she would just always, you know, be saying those things, speaking into existence, manifesting it. Because you have no idea how hard it can be sometimes to, you know, remain focused and positive when you're just being pulled in so many different directions and you have so many things going at the same time. You start to have those thoughts like, dang, am I good enough to do this? You know, am I smart enough to do this? Am I good enough to be doing this? Like you start to doubt yourself. And so when you have someone that is cheering you on, you have someone that believes in you, that is invaluable. You know, that is invaluable. And what I had to realize as you get older, your vision starts to get worse as you get older, but you start to be able to see through the bullshit a lot better. You start to be able to recognize that this person's full of doo-doo and they need to get on. You know, you start to realize that the people that counted you out, they couldn't count. You know, and you know, because they didn't believe that you could do it. And so for me,
your vision.
They didn't see the vision. And so for me, like when I stopped, I think things kind of clicked for me when I stopped looking to other people for affirmation in myself.
Right.
Or validation.
You know, when I stopped looking for validation, affirmation from other people, and I started to say, you know what, I'm gonna be successful in spite of you.
Right.
You know, like that fueled me. And so for me, the same way that, you know, other people not believing in me fueled me, I started to try to fuel other people. So it's imperative that you tell people how important they are, you know, that they can do stuff, that you believe in them, because again, you never, like, a lot of wounds are not external. They're not physical. Some wounds that people are carrying are mental and emotional. And so you just telling somebody throughout the day, I believe in you, you got this, you know, giving them that positive affirmation can help get them through the day or get them over that hump or get them past whatever they're currently believing about themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And RJ, I want to just go ahead and piggyback off of what you said. I think I became more self-aware when I stopped hanging with people that always had opinion about others that wasn't even in the circle, or other naysayers that was around them. I'm like, okay, so if you have so much to say about this person, or you have an opinion about that person, you already know your self-esteem is low. So I don't need to even entertain you. You do not need to be in my circle. You do not need to be in my space. And like I said, I can't take on too many other people's problems. I'm sorry. I like right now, as being a clinician and trying to manage a teenager, my own personal life, I cannot take on anybody else's stress. I don't want anybody to project anything else onto me. So no, I just, like I said, the self-esteem aspect, you have to search people before they enter even into your life, or even, as we say, even enter into the gate. Like when we enter the gate, it's supposed to be Thanksgiving. You know, like in church, they say enter the gates with Thanksgiving, because in my space is sacred. My space is a winning circle. My team is winning. I don't want you over here causing self-sabotage and damaging anything in my space. I remember my mom always used to say, nobody can come over our house when we not here. And I thought about it. We had glass in the house. We had china cabinets in the house. If somebody broke something, that was something that was valuable to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be that in every aspect of your life. And I don't think I ever had self-esteem issues. I think that I questioned myself profusely about life's decisions. And I was like letting other people get in my ear about my decision making. Like, oh, well, you know, this may not be good for you. This may not be good for you. Hey, don't try this. But the biggest thing, I should have just failed and learned a lesson and push forward. And that's what I had to start doing, quieting the internal chatter. Like, I can't listen to what you're saying. I don't want to hear what you're saying. If you got something to say, write it down, put it in the feedback box or the suggestion box. I'll get back to it later if I feel like getting to it. Because we got to talk about family and friends always have an opinion that's not even valid, and I don't even care.
Right.
But my question to you is this right here, though. So, how many things, and this is not just for you personally, but just in general, how many things that are about you that you saw as a problem before someone else pointed it out to you?
Oh, a whole bunch. Like I said, I'm my biggest critic. I would eat myself alive. I would criticize, and then I had to stop. You know, because when I was in middle school, elementary school, I was extremely smart. I was just bored. It was like, school is boring. School is so boring. I see everybody, I see the same people every day. This is lame. Like, I'm dealing with the same people, and I've learned that these people are not my family, so I don't want to be around you. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned probably within the last 10 years was you have to be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself, because you're having low self-esteem and you're not gaining any self-worth by bandaging these wounds, bandaging all this negative stuff that took place. You're just pacifying it, and then it's still a problem. I don't need to keep these problems. I need to let them go, because as a clinician, I cannot tell you how to fix something if I'm not trying to actively work through it myself, or if I haven't already worked through it myself. Right. And that's what I think I like about crisis, is that I really haven't never dealt with a lot of those issues. It's just been more over the internal and decision making. And like you said, RJ, really being honest with myself about how things hurt, how things felt, how my self-esteem was impacted by this person doing something to me, or me feeling a certain way about how somebody handled me. It wasn't me creating these issues for myself. It was about letting people into my gates.
Right. The question I know for a fact, RJ, I know you were kind of leaning into as well, is when we are taking suggestions, right? We need to be taking sound advice. It's not that we have to shut out all advice from the external noise from other people, right? It is still taking in constructive criticism and then blocking out those things that we know are just external noise and someone actually trying to break us down and keep us from doing what we had set in our mind to do, right? Because if I have a goal, I have a plan, I can't share it with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's going to accept what I want to do. I know we talked about it in previous episodes when we talk about goal setting and achieving things. A lot of those things that we want to do, the fear starts to set in is when other people are like, are you crazy? Why would you want to do that? We talked about this in an episode with me, you, and Jasmine before. That's the type of noise where I'm always cautious with. If someone's bringing in fear and anxiety in my life, right? If someone's draining my energy, I have to be very careful about those people, right? And it's not that people are altogether bad people, especially people who might give me a little criticism from here and there. No, we're talking about people who are consistently tearing you down. Those are the people that you need to be that you probably need to remove from your circle. And I think I don't want anybody to get this confused, because it's why would we want you to just completely be left to your own devices or your own thoughts or no, you do need criticism, but like Arthur said, it has to be constructive criticism where the person says, hey, you might not have the resources for this, but hey, I know you still want to do this. This is another avenue you could try. But I wouldn't exasperate or exhaust all your current money on that plan, because then you'd be left with no money. You know what I mean? Those type of things are things that we have to listen to in order to make sound decisions. You want to have a multitude of counselors around you, but they have to be people who are trying to uplift you. Like RJ said, my mom was always the type to be like, Khalil, this is not you. This is not it. This isn't the end all be all. She used to tell me that about certain jobs. She's like, this isn't going to be your career. Just know this. You're putting in a lot of energy into this. That's not the end all be all. You can do better than this. The ceiling's wide open. And she used to try to tell me those things. And as a kid, I'm like, man, you always knocking what I'm doing. I'm doing this right now. This is what I'm doing, Mom. And after I got older, I was like, man, she was right. That was just a job. That wasn't my career field, but that's all I felt I could do because I was good at it. I was a very good salesperson. You know what I mean? I was also a very good construction worker. I worked for the electrical union for a while, and I did that pretty darn well. I got certs and all sorts of stuff. It was an apprenticeship program. I did that stuff well. But at the same time, I was like, dealing with a lot of other things going on in my life. And I was just really just doing it for the money. And my mother was like, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? You have to really sit down. Are you going to have your own business? You got to think bigger than that immediate right there. You have to have some sort of goal in mind when you're doing certain things, right? And I didn't have that future goal setting set up in my mind. I only had the immediate. I wanted a paycheck. That was it. And she taught me how to think larger. And I needed people like that around me. Her and my sister would always motivate me to do more. That's what I'm talking about. You want people to criticize you, but explain why your thinking right there is inerrant, right? You want someone to be able to explain that to you without sitting there tearing you down. She didn't say, oh, you're a bum, this is all you can do. No, she said, I think you can do more. And those are the type of people we want you to surround yourself with. The next thing is that when someone is draining you mentally, physically, draining your resources, that can have an effect on your self-esteem as well, especially a partner. When you're in a relationship with someone, whether it be friend or loved one, whatever it is, and they're draining you. I have a friend, and she was talking about her son being on drugs, not wanting to work. And when she comes home from work, he's laying on the couch and not doing anything. And it depressed her. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to correct the behaviors of an adult. You know what I'm saying? Once you're already 21, 23, 24, it's very hard to correct those behaviors. And that in turn was draining her. Like, I'm not a good parent. I haven't motivated. And then she had to step outside of herself and really do a self-assessment. And she said, I had to really start to let go and let God. I have to give him over to my higher power. I've got to remove that from my mind because I can't control what he does. And what he does not affect who I am. All right. It more affects how he's living his life. And those are things that really weigh heavy on people, especially parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that'll damage your self-esteem as well. Like, who wants to walk around thinking they're a horrible parent? I know Chasman can probably feel me on this one, because parents do make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But how much of that is from bad parenting? Because most people have free will, right? We don't make
Right.
our own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that affects people's self-esteem, and affects them mentally, that they're not living up, or their kids aren't living up to their expectations, right?
Right.
But,
And Khalil, I'm glad you said that. I looked up some stats and they talked about the factors that does affect self-esteem. Age was one of them, disability, genetics, illnesses, your physical ability, socioeconomic status, and the last one is thought patterns. So, we got to dive into this younger generation, and like RJ has started to talk about how most of them are suffering low self-esteem because of the material aspect and this unrealistic expectations that they have due to social media, and the grass being greener on the other side, which this is a false narrative, or they're out of touch with reality due to seeing all of these different things that they potentially want. I had a cousin that swear he's still a rapper, and he is almost 25 years old, and this is a conversation I have, and I try not to laugh about it, because that's his reality. But as an adult, my aunt is like, well, hey, did you want to go to college? Did you want to do this? And he swear up and down he's going to be a millionaire and all these other things, which I don't doubt if he, like you said, Khalil, get into the right area. But it all started with social media.
Right.
Yeah, I think that what it boils down to, like, some things are good in moderation. With social media, and with the expansion and explosion of what social media has become, I don't think that anyone could have imagined that it would become what it is nowadays.
Right.
Where you don't even have to work a job; you can completely be
Influencer.
employed,
Influencers and
through
zombie
being an
authors.
influencer. And so it's become, where anybody can access you at any time from anywhere. And so I don't think that anyone could have ever predicted that this is what social media would have turned into when it first started. Heck, when the internet first became a thing. And I think that for a lot of us, that's where, like I was saying earlier, you have to be very cognizant of what you are allowing into you, because it starts to take up residence in you. And for me, like with social media, and just even comparing myself to other people, period, I had to recognize that God only made one of me. I'm limited edition.
Right.
For those of you who collect anything that's collectible, rather that's Funko Pops or trading cards or comic books or whatever, that you understand limited edition. That if something is limited edition, that means it has high value. Rather that be resale, rather that be, trade value, it is high value. And so each one of us is limited edition. God only made one of you. Even for those of us who are a twin, you are still uniquely you.
Right.
You are still uniquely you. And, like for a lot of us, you have to understand, like when it comes to that, and understanding that you can't see yourself through the eyes of other people who don't even value you, because they don't recognize what your worth is. And so you have to look at yourself through your eyes and recognize that you are a limited edition, one of a kind, anything. And when it comes to, just value, worth, whatever you want to attribute to yourself, you have a high value. You have a high value, and that it's very imperative, like you guys were saying about surrounding yourself with the right people. I'd rather stand by myself than be walking with people, walking with the wrong people. And I'm okay with that. And it's not, like Khalil was saying, we're not telling you to not have any friends, not be around certain people. But again, I'd rather stand by myself and, cheer myself on, believe in myself, support myself, than be walking with people who have no business walking beside me. Because like I said earlier, a lot of our biggest detractors, our biggest haters are people that are around us, our circle. And we've talked about that in previous episodes about sphere of influence, how my bubble overlaps with somebody else's bubble, and the things they say, the things that they do, the things they get into start to impact me, and vice versa, where we're feeding into each other. it becomes like an infinite loop. So for me, that's why I'm very cognizant of who I share my time with. I'm very cognizant of who I break bread with, who I talk to about things, who I go through things with, because everyone does not belong at my table.
Right.
Metaphysically, spiritually, mentally, everyone access to this over here is a privilege. It's not a right. Everyone doesn't have the passcode. Everyone doesn't have the key card to scan in the gate and get in. Everyone don't have that. So, for me being the prize in my own world, my own self, everyone doesn't get to partake in this, and as Khalil said, I don't share everything with everybody. And the reason I don't share everything with everybody is because everyone is not meant to be on the journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everyone doesn't have the right to hear your story, hear your individual thoughts and different things of that nature, because not everyone's going to understand. And because not everyone's going to understand, not everyone's going to put into you or put into the dream, put into the goal, cheer you on, the way that they're supposed to.
Right. Chasman, I want to use that analogy that your parents used with you, that you were talking about earlier. Don't let people in your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm not home, right? Because your parents were the authority figure. That was their house. They were in charge. The same thing goes for you as a person. You can't let everybody into your personal space, into your house, because this is a house that you're living in, right? This is your temple. You can't let everybody in it. And when they do, and you let in some foul spirits, right? They might come in there and disrupt, destroy, break down some of the things that you've already built up and you've acquired in that house, right? Your peace of mind can be destroyed when you let certain people in your house, right? Which will damage your mental, right? Then there's other things when you allow people to take from you, drain for you, your resources, your money, all those different things. So it is important to really, really do an assessment of who you let in. All right. You have to be aware. And we pray to God for discernment for those things, because sometimes you don't know. There's a wolf in sheep's clothing, you know what I'm saying? And it can catch you off guard, right? But you have to really just be cognizant of that and say, hey, you know what? This person right here seems to be more, they're a drain for my energy. I need to back away from this person a little bit. Not saying you got to cut everybody off, but you should have that awareness.
Right. And I want to add to what you said, Khalil and RJ. Every time you bring somebody into your space that is of not of value for you, you're devaluing yourself. You're actually lowering your standards. You're lowering what your parents have taught you. Like I remember my parents always say, everybody's not your friend. You got to hold on to the lessons that you have learned. Hold on to them, because they always come back in hindsight. And you like, well, they told me so. Like you said, your mom, like there's always a revelation in each season of your life where you're like, okay, well, this friend was here. She's not here. It's a new season. I'm in a season of transition, a season of change, and I no longer want to feel devalued. And that's where a lot of the feelings of lower self-doubt, self-pity, feeling worthless, and it's just all the negative things that you can entertain, like you were saying, feeling drained. I know a lot of people say, well, I felt uncomfortable in that space, or I got anxious. You weren't supposed to be there in the first place. That was not the place for you. Why are you there? Like I tell so many people, like, I'm not gonna get on my rant, but if you felt uncomfortable, that was your gut and that was your psychological impact. Tell me, like, get up, go. You're not supposed to be here. This is not for you. When you feel that, sit there and ask yourself, why did I feel that way?
Right.
Being in a club, most people like, oh, I didn't feel like I was in the wrong place. You weren't supposed to be there. You was laying in somebody's bed. You ain't married. You weren't supposed to be there.
Right.
You were in somebody else's face and you have a spouse. You weren't supposed to be there.
Especially
so all these negative things that take place, you brought this stuff on yourself.
Right. That feeling of uneasiness is your spirit letting you know you're in the wrong place.
We can talk about
it. That's a psychological deterrent right there, because that's cognitive dissonance right there. You will start really, really challenging what you're doing, and eventually it'll lead to a mental breakdown because you're doing something you know you shouldn't be doing.
When you start overthinking, when you over there like, oh my, I got racing thoughts. You ain't supposed to be there.
Right.
Get out your own way. Get out these folks' way. Think of yourself as the prize, as you said, RJ. Shout out to Unique, because she said that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But quit devaluing yourself. You're an asset. As RJ said, you're an LTD Buick.
Right.
You're a limited edition. So you need to treat yourself as such. You need to put on garments that feel that way. I need to feel good.
Right.
If I'm the prize, I need to feel that way. Quit
Because you look
devaluing
good, you feel
yourself
good.
to fit in spaces that you don't belong. This is a top tier experience. RJ, you know I'm gonna get on that. This is a top tier experience.
Right. Well,
so I need you to treat it as such. I'm not just anybody off the street. I'm not Joe Dirt, anybody. I have value.
Well, like you said, well, people will treat you, all right, how you allow them to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
You teach people how to treat you.
You do.
You know, those are one of those things that you learn from, you know, hopefully you've learned from the old timers, right? Or some old school folks in your family. All right. There's a level of respect, all right, that people are going to give you when you treat yourself a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just going to allow myself, right, because I've done it in the past, to be treated any kind of way. But if I present myself as any kind of person and I'm doing things that aren't of, you know, high quality or high standard, if I'm presenting myself that way, I'm waking out, hopping out of the bed, waking up out of bed out without showering, going to work with a wrinkled shirt on, expecting my boss to give me a raise when I'm always late. All right. I'm not showing up and presenting myself as a person of high quality. So I'm going to get low quality results. Those are the things that I think people forget about. So I told you guys I was going to talk about interventions. One of the interventions for low self-esteem is gaining knowledge on self-efficacy. Alfred Bandura, the psychologist, that was one of his theories, right? Well, the more we learn how to create a winning atmosphere around us, right? To doing things and being successful at them, even small things like getting to work on time. All right.
Yep.
If I go to work on time, then I get a raise, I'm going to start feeling better about myself.
Absolutely.
I'm start appreciating myself and the things that I know I can do, right? I'm getting, you know, going to school and studying and achieving and getting the grade that I put work into to get, right? That's going to lead me to have a greater range of self-efficacy. If I can do that, then I can do better. In pushing and motivating and having that internal motivation start, right? Those are things that are hard fought interventions that we know work. Once I start telling people who don't drive, well, the first thing, we got to start studying for you to get your license. And once they study and they get they're learners. Once they get their learners and then they go out and they get their license, you can't tell them people nothing once they do that. I've seen clients do that. Their countenance changes. They're happy. They're running around. Man, I got my license, Khalil. Next thing you know, well, let's start saving some money. And then you can show them how to create a savings plan. Boom, they get themselves a car. They got a license, a car. Boom, next thing you know, they get themselves a better job than the one they had. You get what I'm saying? That is when we know you're going to increase your self-worth, your self-esteem, when you're actually achieving and you're winning. It's about that. That's the spirit that you want to have when you want to change some of those things that you might have been going through in the past. Because we all go through times where we're down, right? And we're not living up to expectations. We've been doing the comparisons like we talked about earlier. You've got to get yourself on track with the self-efficacy. That is the next step for people who are suffering with low self-esteem. And it fits in all facets of your life, relationships as well. You know, learn how to treat yourself before you try to learn how to treat somebody else. You start treating yourself better, you're going to treat the other person better too. You know, these are things that you have to do in order to rearrange some of those previous old thoughts and behaviors.
For sure. I was on Instagram earlier and I came across something where they were talking about how to love yourself more. One is speak kindly to yourself. 2, ask for what you need. 3, respect yourself. 4, release others' opinions. 5, create a self-love routine. And number 6, focus on your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I think that too often we neglect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of being holistic as a whole person is to respect yourself, love yourself. And when you love yourself and you respect yourself, you move differently. There's a different swagger that you have when you love yourself. There's a different, you know, belief system when you love yourself. You know, you don't just go for anything when you love yourself. And so I think that for a lot of us, it starts with us internally,
Right.
you know, because no one is going to love you outside of your mother. No one is going to love you more than you love yourself.
Right.
So you know, a lot of things have to start with you. The belief has to start with you. The focus has to start with you. The discipline has to start with you, because by you starting with you, it kind of forms the environment around you, you know, and I can't tell you how many times, just me personally, when I believe differently, I achieve differently.
The outcome is different. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I tell myself I can, I will, I must, that's what I tell myself all the time. I can, I will, I must. There is no I can't. There is no I might. There is no I'm going to try. You know, I can, I will, I must. Because I constantly tell myself those things, you know, you'd be surprised how many things just kind of just fall into place. You know, things either get out of the way or they just fall down. Mm-hmm. You know, why? Because, you know, I am manifesting positivity and growth and development in my life. I'm doing that through believing in myself. Now, other people believe in me too, but it has to start with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It has to start with me. It has to start with me. I've got to, as I said in previous episodes, hold myself accountable.
Right.
Because again, no one is going to believe in me more than I'm going to believe in me, except for my mom. My mom, no matter what I do, she's going to believe in me.
Right.
Mamas and daddies pretty much got
Yeah.
Even if
that.
you fail, they still gonna be behind.
They still gonna be your cheerleader, and
Right.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the kids, but they your critics
Yeah.
too, though. So, but you know, I want to add to RJ, and you always talked about, you know, in previous episodes that how a lot of people think that you're better than them when you have higher self-esteem. We got to get out of that mindset and stop making people feel guilty for wanting to do better, wanting to feel better, wanting to make a positive influence on somebody else. You have to really start being in the place of support of people that are trying to do better. Quit making them feel guilty for doing better. No, they're not better than you. That is you having low self-esteem. You need to start asking them, hey, can I get in with your routine? Or what are you doing to improve? Or how can I be helpful in impacting you to make a change? We and it's us African Americans typically. Oh, she thinks she better than anybody, but that's not the case. RJ, like you said, maybe not doing the normal activities that African Americans do, like maybe picking up a book or, you know, taking a Pilates class because I need to make sure that I'm staying focused with my physical health. So we got to stop making people feel guilty for having good self-esteem, because I think a lot of times so many people have the poor self-worth and self-esteem, and they just feel like they want to come in and self-sabotage somebody else's progress. Please do not do it.
Yes. Well,
stay by yourself.
Like Jasmine said, right? When, especially in the African American culture, when you see someone doing something different, somebody doing something outside of what you usually see, the young child, me and RJ talked about this, who likes to read books, who might be better in academics, right? Why are we going to say that they're square? Why are we going to say that they aren't meeting up to what the rest of the kids doing? Well, everybody else playing sports. Man, you can't dance, man. Why can't you dance like everybody else? There's a problem with that. RJ laughing, but it's serious. There's a problem with that, because that person can be good at something else, right? I don't care that you can't dance. I don't care that you can't play basketball or play football. You know what? You might be better at reading and comprehension than other people.
I may need a tutor down the line.
Right, I may need a tutor down the line. But my thing is, why aren't we celebrating people like that in the community? I want to celebrate the person who actually can spend time sitting still and reading or writing poetry, doing things like that. Because a lot of people have trouble with their attention span and can't sit still. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's some cultural issues. All right, the person who doesn't have the best outfit on, and man, you better start spending some more money. What if they don't have the resources to spend some more money to dress well? Why are you upset because that person has a different skin tone than you. Those are the things that I think need to be really broken down in our culture and looked at. And we need to do some more self-assessments. What do we put our worth and our value in? Especially because people are an asset. My value and worth isn't in what I'm wearing. It's not what it's not what I can do. It's the content of my character. To quote Martin Luther King, I want to know what type of integrity you have.
I want to know your intellect. I want to know what's going on in your mind. Like, I think that was the biggest gap or lapse that I noticed after college or after undergrad, that most people that was dressing nice, corner boys, like you call them, Khalil, they were in jail and they were doing negative things. And the people who were doing that non-normal or the abnormal things that people of our culture was doing, they're in college and giving back to the community and doing things like that. So that sparked.
And that should be what's celebrated now. That should be the norm in our culture. To want to do better, to want to have more, to not want to have children out of wedlock, to not want to have single mothers out there without their spouse, to want to be present in your children's lives. Those are things that I want us to start lifting up in the culture. And that goes for any culture. That goes for anybody. You know what I'm saying? That's not just for African Americans. That goes for anybody. You should want to see people do well. We should always celebrate people doing well. The crab
and being the best version of themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Quit supporting this BS, because it's not realistic.
No, it is not.
And I mean that's the thing, because again, what it does is it creates generational curses and things of that nature, because it just becomes a cycle, because it's what I've always seen. So because it's what I've always seen, it's what I've always done. And so we have to invest in, and I go back to that word investment. Just on the person in general, investing in yourself is the biggest investment you can ever make in life. And we have to invest in ourselves, which then causes other people to invest in us as well, because they see something in you. They see the potential. They see what you could be and what you could do. And that is where I think that for a lot of us, that is where the rubber has to meet the road. We have to start in, like Khalil and Chasman were saying, we have to invest in each other, the positive things, because it's very easy to invest negative, and invest into the negative things and invest into the negative behaviors. But, what we want to do is, because for some people, all they need is a little support and they need a little attention. And then, they flourish and they fly and they become the best versions of themselves. And I think that for a lot of us, one, not having the good support system, not having the resources or the tools necessary to get from level 1 to level 2, but just with a little boost. And I get you up there. A lot of people, they get to level 2 and then level 3 and then so on and so forth. And like Unique was saying in the last episode, understanding this right here is not a landing pad, is a launch pad to the next phase of your life. And by us investing in each other and wanting each other to see us become the best versions of ourselves, you'd be surprised. People will surprise you. Right. I can't tell you how many clients that other people deemed as unreachable, unsavable, unhelpable. You can't do nothing with them. They're going to spend their life in places, like long-term psychiatric facilities, or they go into prison, or they're going to wind up dead. How many people that were deemed labeled as that once I put hands on them, and what I mean by put hands on them, not in a physical mean, but once I actually started to work with them and I invested time, energy, and effort into them, I just didn't treat them as a lost cause. You'd be surprised how many of them turned it around. They turned it around and they'll tell you, like, yo, you saved my life. They're super appreciative. They're super happy, because they recognize that I was invested in them. And because I was invested in them, they became invested in them. They wanted to succeed because I wanted them to succeed. I didn't just, oh man, you just a lost cause. It just is what it is. I'm going to see you again. No, some clients, like I said, that's all it took. And so for me, when I started to see that in my clients and I started to apply that into my life outside of treatment, I started to see the same results, where when people truly felt that you believed in them and that you were invested in them as a person, regardless of whatever the outcome was, you started to see growth and development in them.
Yes.
Right. And I want to commend both of you all for always coming on the podcast and educating the people, because that's a huge part of knowing and making a difference, is the level of education that everyone needs, because it always hit different or feel different hearing it from an outside source, and not always hearing it from a family member, a clinician, or someone else. Is easier for me to pop on the podcast and listen to it and become motivated and hear. So good job, fellas.
For sure. Definitely, for sure. Because we're coming up on time. I definitely think that it is imperative that everyone recognize that they are one of a kind, limited edition. There's never going to be another one of you, no matter how many kids you have or no matter how many people came before you, there's only ever going to be one you. And you have to see yourself as the prize, and that you have value and that you have worth, and that anyone who doesn't see your worth and doesn't see your value doesn't deserve to have access to you. And they, in turn, don't deserve closure. It's time to just kind of move on and transition and move on to another season, another phase in your life, and to just grow and be the best version of yourself.
Right. Definitely, I'm going to second that. And with closing, I want to tell everybody who's on here that if you are struggling with self-esteem, or you're struggling with your self-worth, or don't feel like you measure up, definitely step in and pop in and see a clinician. If you don't have the appropriate insurance or something else, or you can't self-pay, there's a lot of good clinicians online. Listen to podcasts like these that'll encourage you, self-help podcasts, and people that are going to give you some positivity. And there's also good books to read as well on positive self-worth and gaining positive self-worth, man. And if no one tells you today, I'll tell you I love you, and all of you all, many blessings, and I hope that you continue to flourish.
And I'm going to third. Every day you have the opportunity to wake up and be your best self. Silence those who are doubters, naysayers, anyone who's not of value. Do not allow them access. And you are worthy. You're worthy of all the great things. Even though people may have told you otherwise, you're worthy.
So this is Try Not to Overthink It signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm Khalil.
I'm Chasmin.
And we will catch you in the next episode. If you'd like to watch the episode, we ask that you stop by YouTube. We are Try Not to Overthink It on YouTube. So for those of you that like to watch the episode instead of listen to the episode, or even if you want to do both, that is where we can be found. We ask that you like, share, subscribe, and then also turn your notifications on. This is a small thing for you, but it's a great and major thing for us. We can also be listened to on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Audible, pretty much everywhere that you can listen to an audio file, we can actually be listened to as well. So this is us signing out, and we will catch you in the next episode. Later.
Bye.